A big shakeup just breaking. Story out of Tennessee. The Titans are firing general manager Jon Robinson. Matt and I will get all over that. What's happening there with the Titans after a really bad loss in week 13 and some very questionable, one especially questionable move this offseason that really changed the tide for two franchises, including the Titans for the 2022 season, and another comeback victory for Tom Brady on Monday Night Football. But should it have ever even happened, Matt? All that and more coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock and Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. With the news of Jon Robinson hiring, Matt, we're going to get to that. We've got to recap what we saw on the field on Monday Night Football while this breaking news, just as we start recording, rattles around in our brain for a couple minutes here about Jon Robinson, the GM of the Tennessee Titans, being let go of his post. But Tom Brady, another comeback win on Monday Night Football. This game was about as snoozer of a snooze fest as you could have for about 3 quarters. And then all of a sudden, fourth quarter, 5 minutes or so left, it started to get pretty darn interesting. And then it happened, and Tom Brady was able to complete the comeback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one of a long line of comeback wins for Tom Brady in his NFL career. And that allows the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to at least be 500 now as they lead the NFC South with a 6-6 record with this 17-16 win over the New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I mean, the end was fun. As you said, much of the game was not super exciting, but I guess we should give these defenses some credit. I mean, 2 defensive-minded head coaches that, frankly, are on my list of coordinators masquerading as head coaches, and I think we saw a little of that with some game management stuff here. I didn't think Brady played very well till the end either and isn't really helping the team's cause. Neither team ran the football particularly well. Shaheed made some plays. Olave looks good. I thought Godwin had a really nice game, even though his numbers weren't fantastic. But there wasn't a ton of takeaways, except for this division's a tough watch right now, top to bottom. I think the Bucs will win it. It would have been a little more interesting just who would have gotten in the playoffs had the Saints been able to hold on. I guess Atlanta still has a shot, but I feel like chances are Dallas is going to walk into whoever wins this division's backyard and whip them.
I mean, that's the way it looks.
Yeah.
And it's getting to the point where it's like you got to realign how you're doing this with the divisions and the playoff seeding at some point, because you have to at least be 500, I think, to be allowed to be a playoff team, in my opinion. And since there's an odd number of games now, that means you kind of got to win 9 games. I don't think the league will do that, and that's why teams play each other twice a year in division, and we'll see what it ends up looking like for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they just don't look like a playoff team, even though they won this football game. Tom Brady dropping back to throw it 54 times, and he just doesn't look like the same Tom Brady. And when you throw it that many times and it's still, 5.2 yards per throw, it seemed like he targeted K. Otton 1,000 times in that game. He ended up only 10 targets, 6 catches for 28 yards. Yeah, all short ones. He did have the touchdown pass to K. Otton. Those little out routes were working. Chris Godwin, the leading receiver, but he was only 8 catches for 63 yards on 13 targets. There was a big one to Mike Evans that got called back because of the pass interference that led to one of those late scores. But overall, it's just like been that weird, we're going to throw it a million times, but not efficient, it's not a good offense happening right now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Rachaad White getting in there with a catch, but they can't really run the ball very well either. And the defense isn't playing as well as I thought they would be, although, holding the team to 16 points isn't bad. But
sure,
Matt, we got to be honest, the big takeaway here with the New Orleans Saints is they had an opportunity with 6 minutes on the clock and up 16-3. You got to be able to close out that game. Mark Ingram is the one that really has taken the brunt of it, and he felt it because Mark Ingram going to social media this morning and saying he was sick about the loss. This is from Mark Ingram at Mark Ingram II on Twitter. I'm sick about this one. Regardless of circumstances or how I feel, I have to get that fresh set of downs for the squad. I apologize to my teammates, my coaches, and my city for a crucial mistake. We work way too hard and sacrifice blood, sweat, and tears. I will be better. And the play that he's talking about there that a lot of people were talking about during and after the game was him running out of bounds just short of the line to gain, not getting a new set of downs. They didn't convert the third down, ended up punting away and losing that football game. When if they got a first down, probably is mostly over running the clock out there. So going out of bounds and not getting the first down, he was banged up and he was hurt. That's what he's talking about with his circumstances there. But if he's that hurt to where he can't do what he needs to do on the football field, he probably shouldn't be on the football field.
Yeah, I mean, a crucial mistake, and a couple further takeaways from that are, where's Alvin Kamara been? I mean, 12 carries for 26 yards. I'm not saying, boy, Kamara would have done it better or he should have been out there, but maybe. Isn't Kamara the lead back here? He's done nothing for a couple weeks. I mean, he's like the only guy you should be able to count on in this offense. And as so-so as Brady played, it was good to see that when you hand him a gift, he still makes you pay. He's done that a million gazillion times in his career, and he probably was salivating when he saw that going, wow, they just gave me an opportunity. I'm going to, stick it where the sun doesn't shine,
Tom Brady does Tom Brady have enough left in the tank? Does it look like to you? He looks like a different person. I know we went through his personal stuff with Giselle and went through a divorce and things like that, but he's starting to look older. Like in the post-game press conference, I'm like, is he dyeing his hair? Like it looks like it might actually be dying, and his face is just a little thinner. He's just looking a lot older than he had even, I think, last year. Looking older on the field as well. Some throws that I think maybe old Tom Brady would have made, he's not able to make anymore. I think he's still playing good enough quarterback to win. The rest of the offense is kind of bad. It's the offensive line's obviously not helping the cause there, and a million holding penalties by who's it, Donovan Smith, left tackle.
Oh, I was watching him. His hands are so low at the snap, and he just comes up and grabs and
bear hugs. It's like, well, come on, dude, move your feet a little bit or something.
Terrible technique.
Yeah, it's just really bad technique for him. He's been playing too long to have that bad of technique.
Right. He's just getting by with talent still. Yeah.
I don't know if it just makes Brady look older or if he actually is older, but just from a Brady standpoint, does he have enough in the tank to take this team if they start to figure some of the other things out?
I think he still has the arm, and it comes out of his hands fine. I mean, he's never had a cannon, but he throws it well enough, not as consistently, make the throws kind of as you mentioned. I think it's pretty.
By the way, the throw to Godwin in the end zone that got called back for one of those holding penalties. I mean, that was a dime. That's like an inch over the defender's shoulder, right into Godwin in the back of the end zone. That was a beautiful pass. So Brady still has that in the tank.
He does. I think it's clear that he can't improv as well as he once did. And by that, I don't mean Lamar Jackson or run around like a crazy person, but I mean, many plays don't go exactly how you draw it up, and he doesn't get out of trouble nearly as well as he did. I think he clearly isn't as keen on getting hit as he used to. And it's funny you mentioned his hair. Like, I watched the press conference after, and he's always super well-spoken, and he cites that it's his daughter, so I think it's his daughter's birthday, and great, he's always aware of his self-image, and I'm not even saying he's a phony, but I'm sitting there looking at his hair, I'm like, you might be too old for that haircut now. You know what I mean? Like, it looks like he dyed it, and it's all spiky, and it's like, you're a dad now. I mean, like,
it's Tom Cruise levels of how old is this guy really?
Right. You're not 25, and you're starting to not be cool anymore. You're starting to look old.
That's one thing the Mannings always had on Brady is they were never cool and knew they weren't cool.
So they made fun of themselves.
They didn't have to try to,
Right.
Age where it's like, it's harder to still try to be cool when
they played the nerdy, awkward role really well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I don't know. I mean, it just doesn't quite add up.
Saints are obviously in a bad spot.
Yes.
I didn't like, I didn't like one of the decisions to kick a field goal instead of going for it on 4th and 1, which I saw a stat that it was something like with 4th and less than 2, Sean Payton's Saints were, I think, 20 and and I don't have the stat in front of me, so I'm probably saying it wrong, but essentially it was like Dennis Allen always kicks the field goal in the situation. Sean Payton went for it 20 times, kicked 3 times.
Wow.
in the same,
Okay. Same type of down
type
distance.
non-punt situations, more field goal area situations.
Yeah, I mean, an offensive guy versus a defensive guy. And
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some people saying, well, one guy had Drew Brees. I'm like, yeah, I get it. But I mean,
It's true. And Peyton did have a better offense going. And
right. But he
right
was
now,
part of that.
The Saints' strength is their defense. So
Yeah.
I guess it does kind of make sense in that regard. But the Saints clearly aren't going anywhere. The Buccaneers are luckily in a division where it's going to allow them to make the playoffs. But I don't know how much further they're going to get after their first probably home loss in round one of the playoffs.
Totally agree. And just looking big picture, these teams are due to take a big step back next year, the year after. Like the future is not bright, and it's not like, don't worry, the NFC South's in great shape. You know, someone's going to take it and run away with it. I mean, I would be really interested in that Carolina job. You know, maybe if I was Sean Payton, to be honest with you, like these two teams that have owned the division are going to fall off quickly. I'm not afraid of the Falcons. I'll take my chances with what I have in Carolina in an early pick.
Although the Saints have to trade him, so I don't think they would even allow that to happen.
Right. Good point.
Next, Matt. A huge shakeup in the other Southern division, the AFC South. The Tennessee Titans GM, Jon Robinson, is out. That is breaking news. Our thoughts on that and what is going to happen with the Tennessee Titans going forward next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have the access to the best qualified candidates when you're hiring, right? So why not go to the place with the most potential candidates, 800 million plus network of LinkedIn? That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. If you are hiring, LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Jon Robinson might have needed a little LinkedIn Jobs.
Now, yeah.
Then add your job to the purple hiring frame to make your on your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. It's that easy. You utilize simple tools like screening tools, make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire, and probably don't trade away one of your best employees to one of your rival competing businesses. That would probably help you out as well, aside from your hiring. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Again, post it for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks again, everybody, for making Peacock and Williamson your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Jon Robinson's out, Matt. I mean, this literally happened 1 minute before we hit record on today's podcast. And the low-hanging fruit, the immediate here, and we'll get a little bit deeper into what the Titans have looked like on the field this year as constructed by Jon Robinson through 13 weeks. But the A.J. Brown trade. Sure. And you go back to draft night when A.J. Brown was traded, it was a big shock to most people. And I think it was a big shock late in the process to head coach Mike Vrabel. And I think that's a big Sure. I don't think Mike Vrabel was on board with that move. And I think after 13 weeks of the season, Mike Vrabel's like, well, you screwed up, so see you later. I think that's kind of what happened, right? It's like, okay, you went way out on a limb, Jon Robinson. You said you didn't want to pay A.J. Brown. You traded him away. And now A.J. Brown's got just absurd numbers compared to your entire receiving core on the Titans. And you're losing football games, and you need that firepower on offense to be that playoff team. And you're a competitive team that was trying to win now, and it's hard to do without a superstar player like A.J. Brown. And when you go back to draft night, I remember the scene when they announced the trade and they go live and they show the camera of the draft room of the Titans. Mike Vrabel takes a big walk and a big exhale, hands on his head. It did not look like he was in on that move. And now that I see this firing of Jon Robinson, I know for sure Mike Vrabel was not in on that. And by the way, before they even traded him, he said point blank when he was asked about A.J. Brown and the contract stuff and if he would trade him, he said, while I'm here, we will never trade A.J. Brown. And then they ended up trading him on draft
day. I forgot about the Vrabel optics and all that at that time. And, oh, by the way, what you didn't mention, but kind of goes without saying, is you just played the Eagles, just got spanked by the Eagles 2 days ago, and A.J. Brown lit you up. And Treylon Burks may be a fine player, but my hunch is this is not going to be a Justin Jefferson replacing Stephon Diggs situation. I mean, Burks is not going to be Justin Jefferson, and Brown is already elite. You're couple things. I mean, again, this just happened. So I pulled up drafthistory.com and I'm looking at some of their recent picks, and I'm going to ignore 2022, a little early for that. But Caleb Farley at 22 overall, Dylan Raduntz has not really worked out in the second round last year. Monty Rice is a third rounder, is not really a contributor. Isaiah Wilson's one of the worst picks of the last 20 years. I mean, he was he's not even in the league anymore, and everyone knew about the off the field stuff. I mean, he was a third round pick on Darrington Evans. Rashad Evans was a first round pick in 2018. He's a Falcon now. I mean, so a lot of misses. I mean, there are some hits, Simmons, Brown, who's not with the team, and some of those guys. But I would say, if I'm ownership, am I thrilled with the succession plan at quarterback? I mean, I'm not ripping on Willis. He might be great, but that's a risk. You don't really have something secure in place. I was really down on the Titans coming into the season thinking, boy, this team is just not very talented anymore. They're due to crater and get like the 8th pick in the draft. Vrabel's got them to play better than that. But they lose all the good teams and they beat all the bad teams. They'll beat the Texans and the Jags and the Colts, but they lose to the Eagles of the world. And my last note on this is, I know this from experience because I was hired the day after the Browns drafted Kellen Winslow, and I was fired the day after we took Braylon Edwards, and I was in the war room for that. And why I'm telling you that is front office contracts expire right after the draft. So you don't see a lot of these moves, especially from a first place team, taking place in December. But I don't really know why, because if you're not happy with this guy, do you want him to have another offseason and another draft and maybe trade away something else you like, or give whoever's in charge now a good 4 months or so to use what you have and prepare accordingly, as opposed to waiting for another draft to come through?
I believe a director of player personnel, just saw it. Now I can't find it again.
Okay.
Whoever the second man in charge is going to be, basically the interim GM now for the Tennessee Titans going forward. So I would imagine there's going to be a long process of interviews and hiring a new GM in this offseason, and potentially maybe, a candidate from within getting the bump up to GM. But
real quick on that, and I don't know if this is true or not, and frankly, I don't even know who's in charge now. This just happened 1 second ago. But sometimes in these sort of instances, the guy that they promoted, they think is a wonder kid, that they don't want to lose him to someone else's GM. So let's make him in charge now. That's who we want to run our organization. Sorry, Robinson, you're in the way, and oh, by the way, we don't like some things you do. I don't know if this guy's good, bad, or ugly. I know nothing about him, but sometimes you just don't want to lose the guy from within too.
It is VP of Player Personnel Ryan Cowden is going to be their interim GM.
I don't know anything about Ryan.
We have a statement, Matt, from controlling owner of the Tennessee Titans, Amy Adams Strunk, on the firing of GM Jon Robinson. Quote, "Since becoming controlling owner in 2015, my goal has been to raise the standard for what is expected in all facets of our organization. I believe we have made significant progress both on and off the field through investments in leadership, personnel, and new ideas. This progress includes the core of our business, the football team itself, which is regularly evaluated by both results, wins and losses, and team construction and roster building. I am proud of what we have accomplished in my 8 seasons of ownership, but I believe there is more to be done and higher aspirations to be met. I want to thank Jon for his dedicated work to set this organization on an upward trajectory, and I wish him and his family the best." So that is from Amy Adams Strunk, the owner of the Tennessee Titans, the controlling owner, and basically like, yeah, hey, good job. You did pretty good for a while, but now we need something better. We need something more to get us over that hump. And we saw how they fizzled out in the playoffs after being the 1 seed last year and have a worse team this year, clearly. And they're seeing that. And it's like, okay, we wanted to go the other direction, get over the hump, not slide further down the hump.
Yeah, I get all that. I mean, again, it's an instant reaction by us. And there are some very questionable moves, especially some first round picks on injured and, character guys that have gotten nothing out of. And the A.J. Brown move really sticks out, of course, as you mentioned.
I mean, yeah, the A.J. Brown thing, 8 catches for 119, 2 touchdowns this week as the Eagles beat the Titans. That's a clear statement, I think, too.
Right.
Like, I would go as far as to say, if that one move didn't happen, Jon Robinson would have his job right now.
Probably, especially I didn't think of the Vrabel draft day angle too. And Vrabel's got the best job security going, and it's probably just ate him alive all week preparing for the Eagles. And then game day, he's watching it. I mean, he had to go to the owner and be like, "This is awful. How did we let this happen?" Or I'm just guessing, but
And the fact that A.J. Brown is out receiving their entire team too,
right,
on the season, not
total
just
star,
but
right.
happening after the Eagles week too. I mean, that's
brutal.
It's so telling. It's so telling, the timing of that one. All right. By the way, A.J. Brown, 61 catches, 950 yards, 9 touchdowns on the season so far. So he'll get up over 1,000 yards in the next game. Will A.J. Brown. Fantastic season he's having, and it's been an absolute difference maker for the Philadelphia Eagles offense. Next, Matt, how about we re-rank the top of our power rankings here and just see how we feel.
I did 10 real quick. Just scribbled them down.
Okay, so we'll see how bad Matt's top 10 is, and I'll let everybody know what the right order is next. Today's episode is brought to you by Audible. Audible is releasing a slate of new football podcasts that we're sure you're going to love. That's why you'll be able to find a sneak peek of one of the latest from Audible, Block Forever. It's available right now on the Locked On NFL channel. So check that one out. Block Forever. It's available on Locked On NFL right now. Block Forever is a brand new podcast from former NFL All-Pro offensive lineman Ryan Khalil and Audible. Khalil takes the conversation about football to the next level, gives football fans an insider's look, talking with some greats from the NFL, personalities, some of the biggest personalities of all time, star players, coaches, former pros across the league, getting real about what happens on the field, but especially behind the scenes, off the field, in the locker rooms, during team meetings, back at the hotel. You'll hear from current stars like Christian McCaffrey about how he feels about fantasy football, Juju Smith-Schuster, and ton more. New episodes of Block Forever ready every Thursday ahead of Thursday Night Football. Get over to the Locked On NFL right now and get a sneak preview of Block Forever, or catch the full series available anywhere you get your podcasts, including Audible. Get in the game. All right, lay it on me, Matt. How we doing this top 10? Let's count in from 1 to 10. Which teams, if you had to lay your dollars on it, would be the team right now that would win a tournament if it started today?
Okay, so I just scribbled these kind of quickly. So I'm certainly open to scrutiny by you, listeners, whoever. I have 3 tiers, and my just missed category of the top 10, in no particular order, is Tennessee, who we just talked about, Tampa, who we just talked about, and Seattle. And I don't think any of them are particularly good. I don't think any one of those 3 teams has any chance at winning the Super Bowl or is very impressive right now.
Right. But they've done some good things. They've won some games, but they're a team that if you run into a good team,
they're going to be exposed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So my tier 2 teams, and I'm not saying these guys can't win the Super Bowl, but I did think there was a line after the top 5 and from 6 to 10. So number 10, I have Baltimore, even without Lamar. But I think that offense is troublesome. I think their defense is really good. As usual, they're number 1 in special teams DVOA. Doing a lot of Baltimore homework this week, as you can imagine. But the offense to me is very troubling, especially with Huntley behind center. But
watching that 10-9 win for the Ravens against the Broncos without
Denver,
without and Lamar Jackson will be back. So I would do the power rankings as if Lamar Jackson's in there. But when Lamar Jackson's out, they are definitely in that other tier with those other teams, and maybe even below some of those teams, just because I think they're a little bit different. Even though they're playing, I think, better ball than some of those teams, even with Huntley in there. But Lamar Jackson is really important to that offense and them going somewhere this year, so he's got to be healthy.
I mean, the same is true for a lot of the stars, but I will say no team relies on their quarterback to be a total superstar and get them out of trouble more than Baltimore.
Right now this year, it's been Justin Fields and obviously very different win-loss results and Lamar Jackson. Those they have the biggest chunk of their team's offense.
Yeah, good point. So they're 10. I have the Jets at 9. Still have quarterback questions. I mean, but I think it's a very good defense. I like their skill guys quite a bit. The team other than quarterback to me is in very nice shape. And I think Mike White is the best quarterback they've had over the last 2 years. I mean, I guess that's the best compliment I can give him, but he's not terrible and he's efficient enough.
I like it. Depends on who's ahead of him, but keep going.
Okay. Miami at 8. I know this wasn't the shining moment for them and have some question when weather hits and ability to run the ball and all those things, but I still think Miami's a really strong team.
I agree. I think they just ran into a really good defense, but I want to see a bounce back from Tua because it looked a lot more like last year Tua than this year Tua.
Yep, 100%. At 7, I'm sure this will upset some people, are the Minnesota Vikings. I don't think they're as good as their record. I just don't.
I have no problem with that. In fact, I would probably on a neutral field have Miami over Minnesota.
I was torn on that. That was a tough call for me, to be very honest with you. Maybe there's a little recency bias of Miami losing that game. I have your Niners at 6. Quarterback questions. I mean, I can't put them in my top 5. I have a tier break after number 5, but I have the Niners as the best tier 2 team.
Yeah, and it's totally fair. But again, even with rookie Brock Purdy, they still beat a playoff team like the Dolphins.
Oh, I know.
So you got to still have them ahead of the Dolphins. But I do think that they deserve to drop a spot or two. And you do have questions, and we'll see if Purdy continues to play as well as he did in that first action.
Absolutely. 5. Really, these top 5 were tougher for me than the second 5. I have Dallas at 5, which I think is pretty disrespectful. I mean, they just destroyed the Colts, and they went into Minnesota and killed the Vikes. I mean, I think that's a little harsh putting them at 5.
It's harsh, and at this point in the season, I would love to see them against the Bills or Chiefs or Bengals or Eagles. I don't know what you have the order of those teams, but nobody wants to see the Dallas Cowboys right now.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't argue if they were higher than this on the list.
And to pull the curtain back, you and I were talking about EPA for quarterbacks before. We were thinking about maybe doing a segment on that. Dak is 4th in the league. I mean, like, they don't have many weaknesses, and people gave me a hard time. You know, you think Dak's the best quarterback in the NFC? I'm like, yeah, I think he is, and doesn't get that kind of credit. Hurts is great too. Don't get me wrong. Bengals at 4.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I mean, just very well-rounded teams.
Playing hot right now, just like the Cowboys.
I got the Bills at 3. I got KC at 2 and Philly at 1. But those top 5 to me are very tight.
It's hard. And I would even consider the Bills at 5 and have Dallas and Cincy over them based on how things have gone since like week 3 and beyond.
I mean, I don't think Allen is playing healthy at all.
Just right now, snapshot. Like those teams are very close. And just with the record, you have to put the Eagles high. Like the Eagles just went and got a GM fired. That's how good they're playing right now.
Right.
And so you kind of got to have them 1, but I don't know if I'd have a big I wouldn't have odds necessarily in their favor against a lot of those teams, you know, against Kansas City. Like I still might think Kansas City's the best team, but Kansas City just lost to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to get a Bengals tweet or two, you know, hey, did you happen to notice that the Bengals just beat the Chiefs? I'm like, yeah, I get it. And I don't think there's a gap there hardly at all. I mean, again, I think all 5 of these teams are really, really good.
Quarterbacks playing at a high level.
Extremely. And I put the Eagles 1 because I just think they can do it any way you want. You know, if 1 week they just run all over the Packers, the next week they just throw all over the Titans. You know, they can expose weaknesses. They can play it any way you want.
There you go. That is the official Peacock and Williamson power ranking top 10 after 13 weeks. If you don't like it, let us know at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL on Twitter, or drop a comment on YouTube, and we'll be with you tomorrow, mailbag style. Get us your questions in right here, Peacock and Williamson.